The gunshot echoed through the dusty streets of Silver Creek as Mabel Thornton clutched her bleeding arm and ran for her life, her skirts hiked up and her heart pounding wildly in her chest. She hadn't killed the bank manager, she hadn't killed anyone, but with the evidence stacked against her and the sheriff's deputy hot on her trail, innocence felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. Silver Creek, Wyoming Territory, 1875. Mabel had come west to escape a past that haunted her, only to find herself framed for a crime that could see her swinging from the gallows. The setting sun cast long shadows across the dirt road as she darted between buildings, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She could hear horses' hooves thundering behind her, the shouts of men determined to bring her to justice. "There she is, the Thornton woman," a gruff voice called out. "Stop right there." Mabel didn't dare look back. Her arm throbbed where the bullet had grazed her, but fear propelled her forward. The town limits were just ahead. If she could reach the cover of trees beyond, she might have a chance. But the open stretch of ground between her and freedom seemed impossibly vast. As she broke from the shelter of the last building, Mabel felt exposed, vulnerable. Her legs trembled with exhaustion, and she knew she couldn't outrun mounted men. This was it. This was where her story ended. Then came the thunder of hooves from her left, different, faster, more purposeful. A magnificent chestnut stallion burst into view, its rider a tall figure silhouetted against the setting sun. In one fluid motion, the horse swerved toward her, and the rider's arm shot out, scooping her up as if she weighed nothing. "Hold tight," a deep voice commanded as she found herself seated behind him on the powerful horse. She barely had time to grab his waist before the animal surged forward, eating up the ground with long, powerful strides. "What are you doing?" Mabel screamed over the wind. "Saving your hide, seems like," the man replied without turning around. "Name's Cole Blackwood, and you'd best hold on tighter than that if you don't want to fall off." Mabel wrapped her arms around his solid torso, feeling the warmth of him through his cotton shirt as bullets whizzed past them. The horse responded to subtle commands, weaving a path that made them a difficult target. "They'll kill you too," she shouted. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," Cole replied, guiding his horse toward a narrow canyon. "I know a setup when I see one. And I sure as hell know Tom Wilkins didn't die from any woman's bullet." Mabel's heart skipped a beat. This stranger knew something about the crime she was accused of committing. But before she could ask more questions, they plunged into the shadow of the canyon walls, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter behind them. Cole rode hard until darkness fell completely, navigating by moonlight through terrain that would have been treacherous even in daylight. Mabel clung to him, her face pressed against his back, the steady rhythm of his breathing somehow comforting despite their dire circumstances. When they finally stopped in a small clearing beside a creek, Mabel's legs were numb, and her wounded arm had soaked her sleeve with blood. Cole dismounted in one smooth movement, then reached up to help her down. As her feet touched the ground, her knees buckled. Cole caught her before she fell. "You're hurt," he said, his voice gentler than before. In the moonlight, Mabel could finally see his face, strong-jawed and handsome, with piercing eyes and a day's worth of stubble. "It's just a graze," she managed, though the wound burned like fire. "Let me be the judge of that." Cole led her to a fallen log and helped her sit. He moved with the quiet efficiency of a man accustomed to caring for injuries, retrieving a canteen and a small bundle from his saddlebags. "Why did you help me?" Mabel asked as he carefully rolled up her blood-soaked sleeve. Cole's hands paused briefly. "Tom Wilkins was a friend of mine." "Whoever killed him, it wasn't you?" "How can you be so sure?" "Because I know who did it." Cole poured water over the wound, making Mabel hiss in pain. "Sorry," he murmured. Tom was investigating land grabs by the railroad. He found evidence that Judge Harmon and Sheriff Reed were taking bribes. The day before he died, Tom told me he was going to expose them all. Mabel shook her head, trying to make sense of it. "I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I found him. There was so much blood. I tried to help, but then the deputy came in." "And you ran," Cole finished for her. making you look guilty as sin. He began wrapping a strip of clean cloth around her arm. The way I see it, Judge Harmon needed someone to blame, and a woman with no connections in town made the perfect scapegoat. I have no one, Mabel admitted. My parents died last year. I came west to start over. Cole tied off the bandage and sat back on his heels. Well, Mabel Thornton, Miss Thornton, seems to me your fresh start got a bit more exciting than you bargained for. A hint of a smile crossed his face, but you're not alone anymore. Those words, spoken simply in the wilderness with only the stars as witnesses, made Mabel's throat tighten. For the first time since her parents' death, someone was on her side. What now? She asked. Now we rest. Tomorrow we head to my cabin in the mountains. It's remote, safe. We'll figure out how to clear your name from there. Cole stood and began setting up a small camp, unrolling a bedroll for her. And if we can't, Mabel couldn't keep the fear from her voice. Cole paused, looking at her steadily. Then I guess we keep riding. But I'm not letting them hang an innocent woman. The conviction in his voice was unmistakable. That night, Mabel slept fitfully under Cole's spare blanket, her dreams haunted by the sight of Tom Wilkins's bloodied body and the sound of gunshots. She woke before dawn to find Cole already awake, brewing coffee over a small fire. You should eat something, he said, offering her a piece of jerky. We've got a long ride ahead. Mabel accepted it gratefully, realizing she hadn't eaten since the previous morning. How far is your cabin? 2 days' ride if we push hard. Cole glanced at her arm. How's the wound? Better, she lied. In truth, it throbbed painfully and she worried about infection, but she wouldn't slow them down. They broke camp quickly, erasing all signs of their presence. Cole helped Mabel onto his horse, then mounted behind her this time, his arms encircling her as he took the reins. The position was intimate, his chest warm against her back, but strangely, Mabel didn't feel uncomfortable. There was something solid and trustworthy about Cole Blackwood that defied her usual wariness around men. As they rode, Cole explained more about his connection to Tom Wilkins and his suspicions about the corruption in Silver Creek. Tom and I served together in the war, Cole said, his deep voice rumbling against her back. Afterward, he became the bank manager and I tried my hand at ranching. Didn't work out. Drought took my cattle 3 years ago. Since then, I've been scouting for the army, hunting when I need to. Tom was the only person from the old days I still trusted. I'm sorry, Mabel said softly. About your friend. Cole was quiet for a moment. Tom was a good man, honest. When he started noticing discrepancies in land deals, properties changing hands right before the railroad announced new routes, he couldn't look the other way. He told me he had proof, documents that showed Judge Harmon was orchestrating the whole thing. Do you think that's why they killed him? For those documents, I'd bet my life on it, and now they're willing to hang you to cover their tracks. They rode through terrain that grew increasingly rugged, Cole navigating confidently through narrow passes and dense pine forests. By midday, Mabel's fever had set in. She tried to hide it, but Cole noticed her shivering despite the warm spring day. You're burning up, he said, pressing a hand to her forehead when they stopped to rest the horse. We need to find shelter and tend to that wound properly. We can't stop, Mabel protested. They could be following us. They won't find us, Cole assured her. I know these mountains better than anyone, but that arm needs attention or you won't make it to the cabin anyway. Cole veered off the faint trail they'd been following, leading them to a small, hidden valley. A crude lean-to stood against a rock face, almost invisible among the trees. Trapper's shelter, Cole explained as he helped Mabel dismount. I've used it before. Inside, the shelter was basic but dry. Cole settled Mabel on a bed of pine boughs, then unwrapped her bandage to examine the wound. His expression grew grim at the sight of the angry red streaks spreading from the bullet graze. This needs more than water and a clean bandage, he said. I'm going to make a poultice. My mother was Cherokee, she taught me which plants heal. While Cole gathered what he needed, Mabel drifted in and out of consciousness, the fever making her thoughts hazy. She was vaguely aware of him returning, of gentle hands cleaning her wound again, of the sharp smell of crushed plants being applied to her arm. Then Cole's voice, low and reassuring, telling her to rest. When Mabel next opened her eyes, the light filtering through the shelter's crude walls had changed. Evening, perhaps, or was it the next morning? She couldn't be sure. The fever had broken, though, and the pain in her arm had subsided to a dull ache. Cole sat nearby, whittling a piece of wood with a small knife. He looked up as she stirred. "Welcome back," he said quietly. "How long was I out?" Mabel's voice was raspy. "Almost a full day." Cole set aside his carving and moved to check her wound. The infection's retreating. The poultice worked. Mabel watched his face as he carefully examined her arm. In the filtered light, she could see details she'd missed before: a small scar near his right eye, the flecks of gold in his hazel irises, the way his dark hair curled slightly at the nape of his neck. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Cole's eyes met hers, and something passed between them, a current of understanding, perhaps, or something deeper that neither was ready to name. "Can you travel tomorrow?" he asked, breaking the moment. "We're still a day's ride from my cabin, and I'd feel better once we're there." Mabel nodded. "I'll be ready." That evening, Cole shared his meager provisions: jerky, hardtack, and coffee, and told Mabel more about his life. Born to a Cherokee mother and a white father, he'd never quite fit in either world. The war had given him purpose for a time, but afterward he'd sought solitude in the mountains. "What about you?" Cole asked. "What brought you all the way to Wyoming territory?" Mabel hesitated, then decided that the man who'd risked his life for her deserved the truth. "I was engaged to be married in Boston. My fiancé was from a wealthy family, and I thought we were in love. Then I discovered he'd been seeing other women. When I confronted him, he became violent." Cole's expression darkened. "Did he hurt you?" he tried. Mabel's voice was steady now. "I fought back, hard enough that his face showed the evidence. His family threatened to have me arrested for assault unless I left town quietly. After my parents died, there was nothing keeping me there anyway. So you came west to start over." "Yes, and now I'm running again." Mabel laughed bitterly. "Perhaps I'm destined to always be fleeing from something." Cole was quiet for a moment. "Or maybe you're running towards something you just haven't found yet." The next morning they set out early. Mabel was still weak, but determined not to slow their progress. Cole positioned her in front of him again, one arm securely around her waist as they navigated the increasingly steep mountain trails. By late afternoon, they crested a ridge, and Cole pulled the horse to a halt. "There," he said, pointing to a valley below. A small cabin stood beside a clear stream, smoke curling from its chimney. Mabel frowned. "Someone's there." "My friend Marcus," Cole explained. "He watches the place when I'm away. He's trustworthy." As they approached the cabin, a tall man with a gray-streaked beard emerged, rifle in hand. When he recognized Cole, he lowered the weapon and broke into a grin. "Thought you weren't due back for another week," Marcus called. "Change of plans," Cole replied, dismounting and helping Mabel down. "This is Miss Thornton. She'll be staying with me for a while." Marcus raised an eyebrow but didn't comment on the unexpected guest. "Trouble, the usual kind. Silver Creek's corrupt to the core." Marcus nodded grimly. "Figured as much when that new railroad spur went in. Well, you two come on inside, got a stew on the fire." The cabin was simple but well built, with a main room containing a fireplace, table and chairs, and two small bedrooms off to the side. The smell of rabbit stew filled the space, making Mabel realize how hungry she was. Over dinner, Cole explained the situation to Marcus, who listened with growing concern. "So they framed the lady for Wilkins's murder," Marcus summarized, "and now they'll be hunting both of you." "That's about the size of it," Cole agreed. "Did Tom ever bring anything here?" "Documents, papers, anything he might have wanted to keep safe." Marcus shook his head. "Not that I know of, but he did come by about a month ago, seemed nervous, said he might need a place to lie low for a while." Cole exchanged a glance with Mabel. He knew they were onto him. "What do we do now?" Mabel asked. "First, you rest and recover," Cole said firmly. Then we figure out how to get those documents Tom mentioned. They're the only proof that could clear your name." Marcus stood, reaching for his hat. "I'd best be getting back to my own place." Less suspicious than two men and a woman living under one roof. He winked at Mabel. "Besides, something tells me you two might appreciate the privacy." After Marcus left, an awkward silence fell. Cole cleared his throat. "You can take my bed, I'll sleep out here." "I couldn't put you out of your own bed," Mabel protested. "It's no trouble. You need proper rest to heal." Too exhausted to argue further, Mabel accepted the arrangement. Cole's room was sparse but clean, with a handmade quilt on the bed that she suspected had been his mother's. As she settled under its warmth, she realized this was the first time in days she felt truly safe. The next morning, Mabel woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. She found Cole at the stove, his back to her as he cooked. For a moment, she simply watched him, the confident way he moved, the breadth of his shoulders, the gentleness that seemed at odds with his rugged exterior. "Morning," he said without turning around. "Sleep well." "Better than I have in months," Mabel admitted, taking a seat at the table. "Your cabin is lovely." Cole looked pleased as he set a plate before her. "It's not much, but it's home. Been working on it for 5 years now." Alone all that time, something flickered in Cole's eyes. "By choice. After the war, I found it hard to be around people, too much noise in my head." He tapped his temple. "Up here it's quiet, I can hear myself think." Over the next few days, Mabel regained her strength. The wound on her arm healed cleanly thanks to Cole's knowledge of herbal medicine. She insisted on contributing to the household, taking over cooking and mending Cole's shirts when she discovered how poorly he wielded a needle. They fell into an easy routine, sharing meals and stories. Cole taught Mabel to fish in the stream that ran past the cabin, and she surprised him with her natural skill. In the evenings, they sat by the fire, Cole whittling or cleaning his rifle while Mabel read from the few books he owned. It was a peaceful existence, far removed from the danger that had brought them together. But both knew it couldn't last. The question of Tom Wilkins's murder and the documents that could prove Mabel's innocence hung over them like a storm cloud. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Cole finally broached the subject. "I've been thinking about those documents Tom mentioned. If they weren't on him when he died and he didn't bring them here, where would he have hidden them?" Mabel considered this. "The bank, perhaps." "He was the manager, after all." Cole shook his head. "Too risky. The judge's men would have searched there first." "What about his home?" "Possibly, though they would have searched there too." Cole frowned, thinking, Tom was clever. He wouldn't have hidden something important somewhere obvious. Mabel suddenly sat up straighter. "The day I found him, he was clutching something in his hand. It looked like a small key. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was too shocked by all the blood." Cole's eyes lit up. "A key? What kind?" "Small brass, like for a lockbox or a drawer." "Did the sheriff take it as evidence?" Mabel tried to remember the chaos of that day. "I don't think so. When I tried to help Tom, I set the key on the desk. With everything that happened after, they might have overlooked it." Cole stood, pacing the small room. "If we could find that key, it might lead us to the documents, but going back to Silver Creek would be dangerous, especially for you." "I can't hide forever," Mabel said quietly, "and I won't let you risk your life alone." Cole stopped pacing and looked at her, something warm and admiring in his gaze. "You're a brave woman, Mabel Thornton, or foolish," she replied with a small smile. "There's a fine line between the two." Cole sat beside her, closer than before. "We'll need a plan." "I have a friend in Silver Creek, the blacksmith, Cal Foster. He's no friend of the judge or the sheriff. He might be willing to help us." As they discussed possibilities, Mabel became acutely aware of Cole's proximity, the way his hand occasionally brushed hers as they talked. There was a tension between them now that hadn't been there before, an awareness that had been growing since that first day on the mountain trail. When Cole finally bid her goodnight, his hand lingered on hers a moment longer than necessary. "We'll figure this out, Mabel, I promise." "I know," she replied softly. And she did know not just that they would solve the mystery of Tom's murder, but that something profound had changed between them. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The next day, they began preparing for their dangerous return to Silver Creek. Cole cleaned his weapons and gathered supplies, while Mabel sewed a hidden pocket into her skirt to carry anything they might find. "We should leave tomorrow," Cole said as they ate lunch. "We'll approach town after dark, find Cal," and he was interrupted by the sound of hoofbeats approaching the cabin. In an instant, Cole was on his feet, rifle in hand. "Get in the bedroom," he ordered Mabel. "If anything happens to me, there's a trapdoor under the rug. It leads to a cave system. You can follow it out to the north side of the mountain." Before Mabel could protest, there was a knock at the door. Cole positioned himself to the side, rifle ready. "Cole, it's Marcus. Got news you need to hear." Cole relaxed slightly but kept his rifle ready as he opened the door. Marcus entered looking grave. "Silver Creek's in an uproar," he reported without preamble. "Judge Harmon was found dead yesterday morning, shot through his study window." Cole and Mabel exchanged shocked glances. "That's not all," Marcus continued. "They're saying the shooter left a confession, claimed responsibility for Tom Wilkins's murder too. Said he killed Tom for discovering his plan to embezzle from the bank." "Who?" Cole demanded. "Deputy Sheriff Lawrence Collins. He's disappeared, took a horse, and headed east from what I hear." Mabel sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. "The deputy who found me with Tom's body." "It doesn't make sense," Cole said, frowning. "Collins was just a lackey. He wouldn't have had the authority to orchestrate land deals with the railroad." Marcus shrugged. "All I know is what I heard." "But I did speak to Cal Foster. He said to tell you that the item we discussed is safe with him." Cole's expression sharpened. "Did he say anything else?" "Just that you should come at night and use the back entrance." After Marcus left, Cole and Mabel tried to make sense of this new development. "It's too convenient," Cole said, pacing again. "Collins takes the blame for everything, then conveniently disappears. What if he was forced to write the confession?" Mabel suggested. "Maybe the real killer's someone higher up than the judge is cleaning house." Cole nodded slowly. "The railroad. They've been buying up land all through the territory. If Tom had evidence of illegal dealings, then we still need to find those documents," Mabel finished. "Before whoever's behind this realizes they're still out there." They set out at dawn the next day, taking a circuitous route to avoid being seen. Cole knew the back trails well, and by nightfall they had reached the outskirts of Silver Creek. They left the horse hidden in a grove of trees and proceeded on foot, staying in the shadows. The blacksmith shop was dark when they arrived, but a tap on the back door brought Cal Foster's weathered face peering out. He ushered them inside quickly, locking the door behind them. "Didn't expect the lady to come along," Cal said, nodding to Mabel. "Miss Thornton has a personal stake in clearing her name," Cole replied. "Do you have it?" Cal reached into his pocket and produced a small brass key. "Found it just where you said it would be, on Tom's desk." Sheriff's men were so busy arresting Miss Thornton, they never noticed it. Mabel took the key, turning it over in her palm. "Now we just need to figure out what it opens." "I might have an idea about that too," Cal said. "Tom used to rent a room above the general store. After he died, no one claimed his things. They're still there, far as I know." The general store was closed at this hour, but Cal had a solution for that too. His shop shared a rear wall with the store, and he'd long ago discovered a loose board that allowed passage between the buildings. "Owner's an old friend," Cal explained with a wink. "He looks the other way when I borrow the occasional item and leave payment on his counter." The passage led them into the storeroom of the general store. From there, they crept upstairs to the rooms that were rented to single men in town. Tom's former room was at the end of the hall, the door still bearing his name on a small card. "Why wouldn't they have cleared this out?" Mabel whispered as Cole picked the lock. "Judge probably had the sheriff seal it as part of the investigation," Cole replied. "Then when they framed you, they figured they'd already found what they needed." The room was small and sparse: a bed, a dresser, a small desk. A layer of dust covered everything. Cole began methodically searching while Mabel examined the desk. None of the drawers had locks that would fit their key. "There has to be something," Mabel murmured, running her hands along the underside of the desk. Her fingers found a small irregularity, a crack that shouldn't be there. "Cole, I think I found something." Together, they discovered a hidden compartment beneath the desk. The brass key fit perfectly into a tiny, almost invisible keyhole. The compartment slid open to reveal a bundle of papers and a small journal. Cole quickly leafed through them. "These are land deeds transfer records, and here correspondence between Judge Harmon and someone named Bradford. Must be Edward Bradford, the railroad magnate." Mabel opened the journal. "These are Tom's notes. He was tracking the land purchases, showing how properties were bought cheaply from local owners, then sold to the railroad at inflated prices after the routes were announced. And the judge got a cut of each sale," Cole finished, "along with whoever else was involved." A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Cole instantly extinguished their lamp and drew his pistol. Mabel gathered the documents, stuffing them into the hidden pocket in her skirt. The door burst open and a large figure filled the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light from the hall. "I thought I might find you here, Blackwood," a deep voice said. "You always were too clever for your own good." Cole kept his gun trained on the man. "Sheriff Reed, surprised to see you. Thought you'd be busy looking for your deputy." Sheriff Reed stepped into the room, his own pistol drawn. Collins served his purpose, as did Judge Harmon, loose ends, both of them. "So you killed them," Mabel said, her voice steady despite her fear. "Just like you killed Tom Wilkins." The sheriff's gaze shifted to her. "Miss Thornton, the woman who got away, Bradford was quite upset about that. He doesn't like unfinished business." "Bradford," Cole repeated. "The railroad man, he's behind all this." Sheriff Reed smiled coldly. "Bradford has vision. He's building the future of this territory. A few necessary sacrifices along the way are just the cost of progress." "Murder isn't progress," Cole said. "And neither is stealing land from honest people. Call it what you want. The strong take what they need, always have." The sheriff gestured with his gun. "Now, I'll be taking those documents you found. Then we can all take a nice walk to the jail. Bradford's coming to town tomorrow. He'll want to deal with you personally." Cole's finger tightened on the trigger. "Not going to happen, Reed." What happened next unfolded in seconds. The sheriff fired, the bullet splintering the desk as Cole dove to the side. Mabel screamed, more in anger than fear, and flung the heavy journal at the sheriff's head. The distraction gave Cole the moment he needed. His shot hit the sheriff square in the chest. Sheriff Reed's expression registered surprise as he fell backward, his pistol clattering to the floor. For a moment, the only sound was their ragged breathing. "Are you hurt?" Cole asked urgently, moving to Mabel's side. She shook her head, trembling now that the danger had passed. "The documents are safe." Footsteps pounded on the stairs. Cal appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene with a swift glance. "Shots were heard all over town," he said tersely. "You need to go. Now." They fled through the back of the general store, Cal leading them through alleyways until they reached the edge of town. Their horse was where they'd left it, stamping impatiently. "Get those documents to the federal marshal in Cheyenne," Cal advised as they mounted. "Bradford has influence, but even he can't bribe the whole government," Cole nodded. "Thank you, old friend. Stay safe." "You're the one who needs to worry about that," Cal replied grimly. "Bradford won't take this lying down." They rode hard through the night, pushing the horse as much as they dared. By dawn, they had covered significant ground, but Cole was taking no chances. He led them off the main trail, following a rocky creek bed that would leave no tracks. "We'll rest here," he finally said, pointing to a sheltered hollow. "Just for a few hours, then we keep moving." As they dismounted, Mabel winced, her muscles stiff from the long ride. "Are you all right?" Cole asked, his hand gentle on her arm. Mabel nodded, suddenly overwhelmed by everything that had happened. "I killed a man," she whispered. "What? No, I shot the sheriff. But if I hadn't thrown that journal." Mabel's voice broke. I wanted him dead, Cole. In that moment, I wanted him to die for what he'd done. Cole pulled her into his arms, holding her as she trembled. Listen to me, Mabel. You defended yourself, defended us both. There's no sin in that. Mabel looked up at him, her face just inches from his. How do you bear it, the weight of taking a life? By remembering why you had to, Cole said softly. By living in a way that honors the second chance you've been given. Their eyes held, and then, as naturally as breathing, Cole lowered his mouth to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, a question more than a demand. When Mabel's arms slid around his neck, the kiss deepened, becoming something urgent and needful. When they finally broke apart, Cole rested his forehead against hers. I didn't plan this, he murmured. Didn't expect to feel this way. Neither did I, Mabel admitted, but I'm glad it happened. They made camp, keeping the fire small and smokeless. As they ate a simple meal of jerky and hardtack, they examined Tom's documents more carefully. This is everything we need, Cole said, poring over the journal. Tom documented every transaction, every bribe. He even has the names of homesteaders who were forced off their land. Will it be enough? Mabel asked. Bradford sounds powerful. Power only goes so far. The federal government doesn't take kindly to corruption that interferes with its plans for the territories. Cole's expression was grim but determined. Bradford might own a judge and a sheriff, but he can't own everyone. They slept for a few hours, taking turns keeping watch. When they set out again, the terrain grew increasingly difficult. Cole was deliberately choosing the most challenging routes, making it nearly impossible for anyone to follow them. By the third day of hard travel, they reached Cheyenne. The territorial capital was a bustling city compared to Silver Creek, with proper streets and buildings of brick and stone. Cole led them directly to the federal marshal's office, a solid structure near the courthouse. Marshal James Wilson was a stern-faced man with a reputation for incorruptibility. He listened to their story without interruption, examining the documents with increasing interest. These are serious allegations, he said when they finished. Bradford is a powerful man with friends in Washington. The evidence speaks for itself, Cole replied. Tom Wilkins died for these documents. So did Judge Harmon and Deputy Collins killed to cover Bradford's tracks. Marshal Wilson nodded slowly. I've had suspicions about the railroad's land acquisitions for some time. This could be the proof we need. He looked at Mabel. As for the murder charge against you, Miss Thornton, considering the circumstances and new evidence, I think we can safely say those charges will be dropped. Relief flooded through Mabel. After weeks of running, of fear and uncertainty, the nightmare was finally ending. What about Bradford? Cole asked. He'll still be looking for us. Leave Bradford to me, the marshal said firmly. In the meantime, I suggest you both stay out of sight. I can arrange rooms for you at a hotel under different names. For the next week, they waited in Cheyenne while Marshal Wilson put the wheels of justice in motion. They rarely left their adjoining hotel rooms, meals brought up by trusted deputies. The forced confinement should have been difficult, but for Cole and Mabel, it was a chance to deepen the connection that had begun in the wilderness. They talked for hours about their pasts, their hopes, the futures they'd once imagined for themselves. Cole spoke of his dreams of having land again someday, a small ranch where he could breed horses. Mabel shared her love of teaching, a profession she'd trained for but never had the chance to pursue. You'd make a fine teacher, Cole told her one evening as they sat by the window, watching the street below. Any child would be lucky to learn from you. Mabel smiled, her hand finding his. And you'd make a fine rancher. Your horses would be the best in the territory. Maybe someday, Cole said, his fingers lacing through hers. When this is all over. The tenderness between them grew with each passing day. Their kisses became more frequent, more passionate. They were careful to maintain propriety, Cole returning to his own room each night, but both felt the invisible threads binding them ever tighter. On the 8th day, Marshal Wilson arrived with news. Bradford had been arrested in Denver, along with several of his associates. The evidence from Tom's documents had been damning, and additional witnesses had come forward once they knew they were protected. "It's over," the marshal told them. "The charges against Miss Thornton have been officially dropped." "And Cole, the territorial governor asked me to convey his thanks for your role in exposing this corruption." Cole nodded, his expression revealing little, but Mabel could feel the tension leaving his body. "What will happen to Bradford?" she asked. "He'll face trial for conspiracy, bribery, and as an accessory to murder. With the evidence we have, I expect he'll spend many years in prison." The marshal smiled slightly. "The railroad will continue, of course, but under much closer scrutiny." Once the marshal left, Cole turned to Mabel, his expression uncertain for the first time since she'd known him. "It's really over," he said. "You're free now, free to go anywhere, do anything you want." Mabel understood the question behind his words. "And what will you do, Cole Blackwood?" "I thought I might head back to my cabin. It's peaceful there." He hesitated. "But it can be lonely too." Mabel stepped closer, her heart in her eyes. "Are you asking me something, Cole?" He took her hands in his. "I know it hasn't been long, and I know you came west looking for a new start, not." He gestured between them. "Not this, but these past weeks, having you in my life, it's shown me what I've been missing all these years alone." "Cole," Mabel said softly, "I'm not asking for promises," he continued hurriedly. "Just, would you consider coming back with me? Seeing if what we've found together might grow into something more." Mabel's answer was to rise on her toes and kiss him, pouring all her feelings into the gesture. When they broke apart, she whispered, "I was running when we met, running from my past, from the law. But I'm not running anymore, Cole. I've found what I was looking for." 2 days later, they left Cheyenne, heading back toward the mountains. The territorial government had awarded them a modest sum as a reward for exposing Bradford's corruption enough to buy supplies, and a few head of cattle to start Cole's dream of ranching. As they approached the turnoff that would lead to Cole's cabin, Mabel felt a sense of rightness settle over her. The cabin was no longer just a hideout, a temporary shelter from danger. It was becoming something else, a home. Cole seemed to read her thoughts. "It's not much," he said, "but we can make it better together. Add on rooms when we need them. Maybe build a proper schoolhouse nearby once there are enough families in the valley." Mabel smiled at the future he was painting, their future. "It sounds perfect." Spring turned to summer, and the small cabin began to transform. Cole added a covered porch where they could sit in the evenings, watching the sunset over the mountains. Mabel planted a garden, coaxing vegetables and herbs from the rich soil. They acquired more cattle, and Cole began training horses, his gentle way with the animals quickly earning him a reputation in the region. Word spread about the teacher living in the mountain valley, and soon, families from isolated homesteads began bringing their children to the cabin once a week for lessons. By fall, Cole had built a small schoolhouse, using lumber hauled up from the nearest town. The one-room building became Mabel's domain, filled with books they ordered from Denver and simple educational materials she created herself. On a crisp October evening, as golden leaves drifted down around them, Cole took Mabel to their favorite spot by the stream. The water gurgled peacefully, and the setting sun painted the mountains in shades of purple and gold. "I've been carrying this for weeks, waiting for the right moment," Cole said, pulling a small object from his pocket. It was a ring, simple but beautiful, with a small sapphire that caught the fading light. "I traded 2 of our best horses for it, worth every one." Mabel's breath caught as Cole knelt before her. "Mabel Thornton, I never expected to find you. Never thought I'd want to share my life with anyone again. But from the moment I pulled you onto my horse that day in Silver Creek, something changed in me." His voice was steady, his eyes never leaving hers. "I love you. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Mabel's eyes as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. They were married in the schoolhouse on the first snow of winter, with Marcus serving as Cole's best man and Cal Foster making the journey from Silver Creek to give Mabel away. The small valley community gathered to celebrate, bringing food and gifts for the couple who had brought education and hope to their remote corner of the territory. As Mabel and Cole danced to the music of a fiddle and harmonica, she leaned close to whisper in his ear. "I have a wedding gift for you, but it won't arrive for about 7 months." Cole froze mid-step, his eyes widening as her meaning registered. "Truly?" Mabel nodded, her smile radiant. "Truly." Cole's whoop of joy could probably be heard all the way to Silver Creek as he lifted her off her feet, spinning her around before kissing her soundly, oblivious to the cheers and laughter of their guests. Life in the mountains wasn't always easy. The winters were harsh, and the work of maintaining a ranch and school demanded every ounce of their energy. But each challenge they faced together. Catherine Rose Blackwood was born in late May, arriving with the spring wildflowers that carpeted the valley. She had her father's dark hair and her mother's determined spirit. Cole was transformed by fatherhood, his natural gentleness finding new expression as he cradled his daughter with hands that could break a wild horse or build a cabin. As the years passed, the Blackwood Ranch prospered. The small valley attracted more settlers' families looking for peace and opportunity in the high country. The schoolhouse expanded, and Mabel trained other teachers to help as the number of students grew. On the 5th anniversary of their wedding, Cole took Mabel back to the stream where he had proposed. Catherine, now a spirited 4-year-old, played nearby under Marcus's watchful eye, while their younger son, Thomas James, named for the friend whose death had inadvertently brought them together, napped in a basket. "You ever think about that day?" Cole asked as they sat side by side, feet dangling in the cool water. "When we first met," Mabel leaned her head on his shoulder. "Often. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't come along at that exact moment." "I was supposed to leave town that morning," Cole admitted. "Had business in Laramie, but something told me to stay one more day, call it fate or providence. Or love finding its way to us," Mabel finished. Cole smiled, drawing her closer. "I never imagined my life would turn out this way, never thought I'd have all this." He gestured to their children, their home in the distance. "Sometimes I still expect to wake up alone in my cabin with nothing but silence for company." "Is it what you wanted?" Mabel asked. "This life we've built?" Cole turned to her, his eyes full of the love that had only deepened with the passing years. "It's more than I ever dared to want, more than I deserved." "You deserve every happiness, Cole Blackwood," Mabel said firmly. "We both do." They remained by the stream until Catherine tired of her play and came running to them, her small face alight with the joy of discovery. "Papa, Mama, look what I found." In her hand was a perfect feather, striped brown and white. Cole lifted his daughter onto his lap, examining the treasure with appropriate solemnity. "An eagle feather, that's good luck, according to my mother's people." "Can I keep it?" Catherine asked. "Of course," Mabel said, smoothing her daughter's dark curls. "We'll put it somewhere special when we get home." As they walked back to the ranch, Catherine riding on Cole's shoulders and Mabel carrying Thomas, Cole reached for his wife's free hand. "5 years ago, I threw you behind me on my horse and rode away from everything I knew," he said quietly. "Best decision I ever made." Mabel's fingers tightened around his. "I was running from the law," she replied with a smile, "until a cowboy threw me behind him on his horse and never looked back." "And I never will," Cole promised, his voice rich with certainty. "Not for all the gold in these mountains." In the gentle light of the setting sun, the Blackwood family made their way home, their shadows stretching long behind them, not running anymore, but walking together toward whatever adventures the future might hold.